Hi, I'm Rick, and this is a Talk Tonic session here at RetailNOW 2024. I have with me a couple of esteemed guests, friends of mine from the industry for a lot of years. We'll get into that. I've got Allie Haskell, who is the head of customer success for CBS NorthStar, and Jeremy Julian, who I think you're still COO. Is that correct?
CRO.
Oh, CRO. See,
but whatever.
Allie, I'll start with you with a couple questions. I know your background originally was hospitality, and you came into hospitality technology. I have a background of I used to be a reseller for many years, and I brought a lot of people across that divide that worked in the hospitality industry because they really knew what it took to get customers to be satisfied and successful with the product. So tell us a little bit about your journey and how that came to be.
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually fell into a job at CBS. I had some friends who worked there. I was in college looking for a new job. I had worked at Rainforest Cafe for 4 years, was a server, bartender, then was managing. And so my friend was like, hey, I work at this business. They do point of sale support. Come work in the support center. Is that something you'd be interested in? I said, absolutely not. I don't want to talk to people in the restaurant. I was a restaurant person. I know, like, when they're nervous, it's frantic and it's crazy. And he said, well, come try it. I interviewed at the time. There was a woman named Tammy there that was running it. I interviewed with her. I had bright blue hair, tonic blue hair. And she looked at me and she was like, we're going to give you a shot. You've never done this. And I said, okay. And I've been there now for 13 years. And they called me Big Blue for 2 years until it faded.
Jeremy did not have blue hair at the time.
He did not.
That I did not. I did actually, the support center won a bet and I got a pink mohawk at one point. I'll have to tell you that story. I can show you pictures offline.
We need pictures of that for sure.
Yes, absolutely.
Let's delve into some history.
Yeah.
We were just chatting a little bit about it. I mentioned before that this is actually RetailNOW number 20 for me. I joined in 2004 when I was a Dinerware and Microsoft RMS dealer. Have made so many connections around this industry. People who are mentors, friends, all that kind of thing. Jeremy's absolutely all of that and more. Let's talk about the beginnings. Where do we come together the first time?
Well, for those that aren't familiar, we got into the industry. We're really selling cash registers back in the late 80s, but then in early 90s, we started selling PosiTouch point of sale. Since been acquired by Shift4, and we've got lots of penetration there. But you and I met on a bus at a PosiTouch conference, and you came and talked to me about loyalty solutions. And as I'm sure we'll talk about over the show, lots of partnerships over the years to help customers solve problems. And, formed our friendship back then and our partnership back then, and have continued at a couple of different stops you've been on along the way.
One of the things I kind of look at is the mind share around here in the RSPA. It's networking, and that mind share is a huge thing. And so looking at one of the interesting things is we're here at Talk Tonic. We're sitting across the table from each other. Some people are probably like, hey, those guys are competitors. They both sell cloud point of sale, right? And the reality is we sell in completely different spaces, right? You were a reseller with PosiTouch back in the day. I was a reseller with Dinerware and with Microsoft Retail Management System. We've been on that side of the fence. Now we sit on another side of the fence, the ISV side. Ultimately, we are not competitors in any way. You sell to the enterprise side of the market. We sell mostly SMB. We sell through reseller partnerships only. I believe you guys are direct only. Direct only. So talk a little bit about what you see in the room, what you see at these shows. People who are actually competitors can be seen as competitors, and different partners that you work with.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what makes the RSPA special. Like, everyone here is in some way competing with each other, but coming together, mind sharing here is special. It's not done at a lot of places, and it's cool to see it. You look around and most of these people here are competitors and or partners of ours at CBS. And so it's kind of fun to see it.
And some are both. Some are competitors and partners. And I have a fundamental belief as part of this business that, and a good friend of mine will talk about it, all ships in the harbor rise together. And at the end of the day, if you're running into problem, it's not a zero-sum game. I don't believe it's a zero-sum game. Tyler and I, met last year, and it's one of those things that we talk about it. If we make each other better, ultimately the customer is the one that's going to win. And so how do we do that? I was just talking with somebody else that's going to be on the show tomorrow about that exact same thing. It's like, hey, what are you guys finding in this area? Because even though we're using a lot of the same products, a lot of the same hardware manufacturers, a lot of the same software, A lot of the same interfaces. What are those things that customers are looking for, and how do we solve those problems? And so that's why I come and ultimately build those relationships. I know you and I've talked offline, not on camera, not on mic, of just, hey, how are you guys solving this problem throughout the years? And I know you've done the same to me or other people on our team, which I think is the benefit to the RSPA. And it really is why I feel so strongly about showing up and spending time with people that, again, you might be in competition with them.
Yeah, that's a good point. And conversations like, hey, we're thinking about going down this road. Should we? Why should we? Why shouldn't we? We've had those conversations throughout the years. I think everybody brings a perspective, a little bit of a different perspective based on what they've seen in the market. I always talk about how back in my days of selling directly to restaurants, my most important thing was somebody had to be a reference. If
Yeah.
they were not referenceable, they were not of value to us. We could be making money, but if they wouldn't tell people good things and get the good word out, it wasn't great. And so, that's what I see in partnerships. It's the who's doing what well. How are
Absolutely.
people treating their employees? How are people, does that person like working there? Those kind of things.
Yeah, no, and again, I do believe it's one of those things that as restaurants succeed, part of why I even host the podcast that I do is I see it as one of those things that restaurants need to succeed. And if they get the right information, whether they're putting in your guys' point of sale or our point of sale, they need to be successful to pour into the community that they're part of. And if I can help in some way to do that, I look to do it.
Excellent. All right, let's dive deep into success, customer success, because I'm sure you deal with a lot of pain and a lot of things that have gone wrong. It's no secret. It doesn't matter how great the product is. There will always be problems. How do you keep your customers happy?
I mean, for me, it's touch points. The more you're in contact with your customers and you know what they're looking for, what their pain points are, or how you can help them, it's easier to get a gauge on where they are in your business, whether they're happy or if they're not. And when they're not happy, it's even easier to get them on track because you'll know what their issues are and how to help them.
Right. And it's interesting. I kind of look at that same thing in my world down through, partnerships,
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
The partner
Partnerships.
is my customer, but their customer is their customer and also our customer, right?
Exactly. And we have that same kind of feeling with our partners. Like our partners are a direct impact on our clients. So if our partnerships aren't good, then our clients aren't happy. And so we have to bridge that and fix it and have weekly check-ins whenever we can, just to make sure everyone is on the same, ship rowing the same direction.
Yeah, whether that's a software partner or a hardware
Hardware
partner.
partners.
Yeah.
But one of the things that we talk about in our one-on-ones is being proactive, understanding where the customer's going, and if we can help them do that, because at the end of the day, we're an enabler to helping them grow. And so we don't know where they're going. Just yesterday, I had lunch with a customer. We were talking a little bit about some of their initiatives. And so I'm walking the show floor thinking about those initiatives in my head so that I can come bring them back to this client and say, would this fit the need that you're talking about? And so that's part of what we do with customer success. It's not always just proactive, you're pissed off and frustrated with something, let's go fix it.
Yeah.
It's also, tell me a little bit more about your business. Where are you going on a regular basis so that we can come find solutions for them, present them back to them, kind of like that old VAR model, but now integrate it back into our point of sale. I was, again, talking just this morning to some people that we mutually know about a new press release we just did about voice AI ordering. And most people might think that's really silly, but it's like, at the end of the day, it's helping them answer the phone
Faster.
and has increased their sales because they can take these phone calls that they can't staff enough people to be able to do that. And so they told us a while ago, we've got a problem with not being able to take the phone calls. How do we solve that? You can solve it in numerous ways, but ultimately they partnered with somebody that partnered with us to get those orders into the kitchen, and it was really helpful.
Are they then able to handle the downstream, or is it going to be too much because they're
The kitchen's fine. It was just with right now in California, especially, it's a California-based brand too. Like it's hard labor-wise. And so they have those people serving the customers in store. And so they're not sitting there, taking calls. And so for them, it's the downstream was never the issue. It was the constant calling in, having to stop helping customers, picking up the phone. Oh, can I put you on hold? And then potentially losing that sale because, they put them on hold. So it was a good thing for them. But that's why we have these check-ins with people and we go, what does your year look like? Like, what are you looking for next year? And so when we're at these shows, like that's what's in the back of our mind is, oh, okay, cool. This looks fun. Is this something you're interested in? We can take that back too and kind of bridge all of those needs.
I spent some time at the show talking to the robotics company. We do a lot of table service. So it's like, help me understand you're running food. It's like, well, it needs to integrate with the POS. And I went, help me understand what that looks like. And he goes, busing. So now I'm a server and I know that this table just left. You can now send the robot there to go be there, so you don't have a bus tray, because nobody really has bussers anymore. They're pre-bussing their own tables. So what could that look like where you say, hey, send the robot to table 32 so that I can now put it into the bin and now take it back to the dishwasher, rather than, and that's just cutting out steps. I hadn't even considered it, but that's an opportunity. So now in my next couple of conversations, have you considered robotics, and what might that robot do for you in busing to help reduce those steps?
And that's an interesting thing as the robots are
As the robots are right
crawling
there.
across our shoulder and knocking it. I should not say knocking into us. It did stop. It stopped short, but it stops pretty
gets
pretty
very
close.
close.
Yeah. And so yesterday, we were talking with somebody and they were saying, listen, I don't want to go to a restaurant and be served by a robot, right?
Yeah.
And so that's the interesting thing, is that you've just highlighted something that maybe they don't want to have it bringing food out to the table, but maybe it can serve a useful, especially in an area that has labor issues. Like, it's really tough in California, I know.
Well, and it's funny because my kids chose to go to the sushi place that sends your birthday dessert out on the robot, and it sings happy birthday to you coming across the restaurant.
That's
So very true.
That's crazy.
That's
Right.
the only thing they use it for, is to bring out,
That's an experience, though.
but that's
People
an
want
experience, and it was
experiences.
Instagrammable, and so
Yeah.
they bought it. But it drove my kids there, so where the next kid said, "Oh, I want to go to this sushi place because I know my ice cream's going to
Come
show
down
up
on
with a
robot."
robot singing to me across the restaurant."
People want
Excellent.
experiences. That's what it is. And
Yeah.
engagement. Like, as much as people say we don't want someone there, I want to talk to you. I
Yeah.
don't want to go talk to someone who's like doing things. I want to see Rick and see how Rick's day is doing while he's serving me food. Why not?
Yeah, I think the challenge in our space over the last few years is simply that, COVID was such a massive disruptor
Oh, yeah.
that people couldn't figure out, like, some of the things we're doing because of COVID. Is this the future,
Mhm.
or is it just here to serve the need until things get back to normal? And then, we're going to go back to, more service and less do it yourself.
Well, and I think you and I have been in this industry. I mean, all three of us have been in this industry for quite some time. I also can tell you that customers' expectations have changed.
Drastically.
COVID, accelerated what people expect your product to be able to do for the guests. They expect you to be able to serve them with a robot, with a kiosk, with an online order, with, third-party delivery, with in-person, with handhelds.
I need all
these
of
different
this, or
things.
I'm not buying your system.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
but whereas before, 10 years ago, when we would walk in, we were satisfied just to have a reliable POS that could bring up orders and total things up and send it to the kitchen. Now the expectations, because guests also want to be able to interact with brands differently. And so it creates an opportunity for us to constantly be growing and doing that. Because if we're not going to keep them for long.
Yeah, I obviously don't spend a lot of time thinking about, like, your space, right? The enterprise, more of that. Hearing a lot about multi-concepts under one roof, right? Like the whole, forgive me for the fast food analogy, but like that KFC, Taco Bell, Pizza Hut under one roof. I'm seeing that more independents and some chains are starting to try to do that. Are you seeing that?
We definitely are. And again, I was just talking to somebody from New York City, and he says they've got the fine dining Italian restaurant, but then they've got the pizza concept out the side door, so they can sell pizza by the slice. But they've got that, especially in the expensive rent places, they have to maximize their four-wall economics. One of our clients is the group of PF Chang's. They were taking some of their stores and cutting them in half and making them delivery only to try and hit that delivery. And so they were looking at remodeling existing stores to turn them into delivery only, or delivery as a primary method, delivery and pickup, and then taking the other, portion of the 10,000 square feet. So their traditional units are about 10,000 square feet. They don't have enough volume to fill that entire space.
Right.
So how do they take that lease that they might be in for another 20 years, take 5,000 square feet of it, keep it as a existing dining room, and take the other 5,000 square feet and turn it into a delivery takeout, all through that same four walls? I mean, BJ's is doing something very
I was going
similar.
to say, I think we also see it with diversifying their revenue, like leveraging third party more with
Yep.
those ghost kitchens and trying to figure out how they can have multiple concepts that are associated to the same brand, but just different, easier items that they already sell at other concepts, spinning out for to go. We have another brand, Lazy Dog, that does that with their concepts. They have a ghost kitchen. You can order wings from it, but it's through online ordering only.
You
trying to
can't
get
order
those-
wings in the store.
Yeah.
You can order them on your phone.
But it's cool. Like, I
from
can
the
sit at a
store
table and order
and get
them.
it delivered to your
But
table.
it's just diversifying that and trying to figure it out. And COVID really did that for them. They were selling like eggs and stuff through third-party apps to help people
Wow.
just to try to diversify that revenue when they needed to, and it's sticking.
They're also doing TV dinners,
Yes.
Oh,
upscale TV dinners
That's
that are
amazing.
actually
Delicious
fantastic
food.
yeah.
food. But you
Delicious
think about
food.
that. Do you ever think 10 years ago that any of our restaurants that we were doing business with would be selling TV
TV
dinners?
And they're good. Like,
Yeah.
it is high quality. I have them in my freezer at home, like, ready to eat because they're good.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Yeah, you think about this like in the vein of the whole world. I've often heard people say a restaurant is a manufacturing facility, right?
Yep.
Raw materials come in the back door, we assemble things and then sell them. And this is almost like a factory that can produce widgets.
Yep.
Might have downtime where they can produce other widgets and
Mhm.
make enough money to make it make sense from a revenue standpoint. That's what these guys are all doing.
I mean, people had to get creative. And
Yeah.
some of it's sticking because it makes sense, and other stuff is going away, which some of it I'm happy to see go. But diversifying revenue through third party is here to stay, in my opinion, and it's only getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Rick, you talked a little bit earlier about how you got into the space, came kind of through that reseller channel. Can you talk me through kind of the journey? Because I've been part and parcel to it, but maybe our listeners haven't seen. Why are you so passionate about serving this industry and particularly the restaurant vertical? Because you've stayed really close to it for the majority of your career.
Interestingly, at the highest level of that, it's what Allie's talking about, experience. When you go out and eat, it's an experience. I went to Nobu last night over at the Virgin Hotel, which
Oh,
used to be
okay.
the Hard Rock. That's the original Vegas location of Nobu. I went there 15 years ago, 20 years ago, and had just an amazing experience. I actually had a server from that Nobu location. I had his mobile number, and he used to change his nights to line up with when I was
Oh,
there.
that's cool.
So like that ultimately shows like its experience. That's number one. I talked to so many people in this industry who have said, I came from hospitality. I was a bartender. I came from hospitality. I was a server. I was in the kitchen. I've done every job in a restaurant. Funny enough, I haven't. And so I started at a retail store when I was 15 years old with actual scanning technologies and IBM, but I was a cashier. I started out as a cashier, became a head cashier, ran the whole front end, did all that stuff. So I was really big into the retail side. The only hospitality thing I've touched, this will get him laughing a little bit, is I worked at a Wawa for college summers back in Philly, back in Ardmore. And so the interesting thing about my Wawa at that point, store 66, Ardmore West, we had a griddle, a full griddle. And there were only 2 stores left in the entire channel that had that. And so cheesesteaks, everything all day long, the bars would close at 2 a.m. and you'd have a line out the door. That truly is like working in a restaurant at that point,
absolutely
right?
is.
And serving people. And so, as I kind of went through, I came from the tech side of things, right? I was an MCSE, self-trained, self-taught on technology, and founded a business that originally was supposed to be SMB for basically networking, client server stuff for small to medium businesses, and accidentally got into point of sale. I had a customer who was a model train shop. They were looking to put in a point of sale. We put Quick Sell in there, just from your neck of the woods. They were based in Anaheim and became an early reseller of Quick Sell. They got bought by Microsoft. That became Microsoft RMS. Off to the races. A friend of mine asked me in 2003, why are you not doing hospitality? He worked for a point of sale company in the hospitality space. Long story short, we jumped into Dinerware. We were Dinerware's second reseller.
Oh, very cool. I didn't know that.
And sold a ton of that over the next 10 years. So yeah, exited that business in 2012 and jumped into all sorts of things on all sides of
things.
here. Still very passionate about loyalty and what I would call true engagement, like real customer data and engagement, as opposed to just earn and burn points. Right.
I think that's what's cool about this industry. Like, everyone is super passionate about their niche or what they are. Like, I had no idea when I started working at CBS that my passion for taking care of people in the restaurant would go through to me on the phone. Like, I started in customer success or customer support, taking phone calls, and being able to relate to them, like, really did fuel my passion for being at CBS. And I think that that's why I've stayed as long as I have, and it continued to grow throughout the organization, because like my passion for taking care of people and making sure that they're successful and that we're successful, like, is just, it's who I am. And my story at CBS. Like, I bleed for our customers. Like, I'm always like, Jeremy, we need to do this. We need to make it right. I don't know how. We will find a way, and you're going to help me find a way. And then he supports that. And
Yeah.
Well, that was actually the question I was going to ask both of you guys to wrap up, is really the conversation about why do those relationships, why do those connections matter so much? Why, I've watched you, Rick, you've built relationships. You can't walk through this trade show floor without getting stopped every 15 feet. And Allie's now at that point where she's in that same boat. And I look at it and say, it's because you guys give to those around you. Why is that such a critical part of why you've been successful?
I just think it comes down to it becomes personal, right? The relationships
Absolutely.
become personal. You get to know people at all kind of events around the industry. You're together a couple times a year with RSPA. Ultimately, that's who I am. Like, I'm passionate about people. I'm passionate about relationships. I think that's the simple answer.
And I think for me too, it's like, if I can help one person not make the same mistake that I've made once or twice, like, that's, to me, success for someone else. If they don't run into the same wall that I hit and they're able to go through it, I take that as a win.
Yeah, Jeremy and I are going to host a 14-hour podcast
Love
called What Doesn't Work?
Ooh.
Things that we've found across the years that have caused us a lot of pain, right?
Absolutely.
Because we could share a lot of things.
Absolutely.
Failure is not failure. Failure is temporary, and then you move on, right?
Yeah, the only failure is quitting.
Yeah.
Quitting and not continuing to move forward.
Yep. And so, speaking of quitting, we've run out of time, unfortunately. So, Allie, thank you very
Thank you
much
for having me.
for being on the show. Jeremy, always a pleasure to hang out with you guys.
It's been awesome.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.